This is a war of choice, and every dollar spent on this war is a dollar not spent helping families afford housing, health care, groceries, childcare at home.
Should America spend billions more on war or invest that money at home? That question fueled one of the hearing's most emotional exchanges as Senator Tammy Baldwin confronted Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over the human and financial costs of the Iran conflict. The debate soon shifted from defense budgets to the safety of American troops on the front lines.
Instead of spending tens of billions of dollars more for this president's war of choice in Iran, that both houses of Congress, I may add, have voted to end absent explicit authorization by Congress, we should be focusing on the needs of American families. We could invest this money to accelerate new cures and treatments for cancer and Alzheimer's. We could use it to help more families with rising home energy costs. We could use this funding to help more families afford quality childcare. We could use this funding to help more kids get free school lunch. We could use this funding to restore health care for working families. We could use this funding to support our public schools and special education. This is a war of choice, and every dollar spent on this war is a dollar not spent helping families afford housing, health care, groceries, childcare at home, investing in the opportunities for the American people. First, I want to express my condolences and my respect for the 17 American service members killed in this war since February, including 3 over the past few days. Their lives are the price this country has paid for this war. The deadliest day for U.S. forces was on March 1st, when an Iranian drone struck an army facility at Port Shuaibah, Kuwait, killing 6 soldiers and injuring more than 30 others, including soldiers from Wisconsin. Soldiers from the unit stationed at Port Shuaibah told reporters that the facility did not have adequate air defense capabilities. These soldiers and their families believed they were sent into harm's way without the defenses they needed. Secretary Hegseth, what would you say to those soldiers and their families?
First of all, that we honor and recognize their sacrifice and what they've given. I've been in touch with at least one of those families on a regular basis and understand the pain of losing a loved one is unfathomable, which is why we greeted them at Dover, and we'll greet those again tomorrow. I would say in talking to Admiral Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, before all of this was undertaken, maximizing defensive capabilities, mostly by moving as many people as possible off the X, which we did in historic fashion, moving almost 90% of Americans in theaters off of where they could be a target, first of all.
So
Bunkers that they would move into, early warning.
on Fort Shuaibah.
Ultimately,
and I will quote from the Washington Post article of July 12th. Shuaibah, this is a quote, Shuaibah did not have any of the systems that would take down the one-way attack Shahed drones, and initial security assessments found that the base was not adequately protected, end quote. Soldiers at Port Shuaibah have also been quoted in news reports saying that requests for additional medical and drone defense systems were denied prior to the conflict with Iran beginning. Why were those requests denied, Secretary Hegseth?
I would confer with Admiral Cooper, but it's not a single drone or defense request denied at any level that I'm aware of. We did everything we could to move heaven and earth in every single location to protect every single American we possibly could.
An article from July 12th, Washington Post also quoted a soldier saying that the unit's request for an Eagles drone defense system was denied because of lack of assets. That's an end quote. U.S. Army Central has conducted an investigation into that attack. Do you commit to releasing the findings of that investigation publicly, yes or no?
We'll get you the status of that. I would argue if it was a resource constraint That's precisely why we're having this hearing today, to speed up systems to the battlefield, to warfighters as fast as humanly possible. It's been too slow in the past. It needs to be faster. The
Commit to
reforms we're
releasing
undertaking
the
will do
findings
that.
of that investigation publicly, yes or no?
I will work with Admiral Cooper to make sure it's handled properly. Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Secretary Hegseth, I traveled to Walter Reed Military Hospital and met with soldiers who were injured in that attack. What they told me confirmed what other soldiers have said publicly, that most of these soldiers injured in the attack did not receive proper medical care in Kuwait, in Germany, or during their initial days back in the U.S. The U.S. military has been fighting wars in the Middle East for 25 years. Why was proper medical care not immediately available to these injured soldiers, and why were they not immediately screened for traumatic brain injuries?
I'm not taking issue with the characterization of individual soldiers, but I would argue that every effort was made to provide every level of medical care possible, understanding how CENTCOM
The
operates.
senators.
The exchange between Senator Tammy Baldwin and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth focused on two closely connected issues: whether the war with Iran justified its growing financial cost, and whether American service members were given the protection they needed before being sent into harm's way. Baldwin began by arguing that billions of dollars requested for the war could instead be invested in domestic priorities, such as cancer research, Alzheimer's treatment, childcare, healthcare, affordable housing, public schools, and energy assistance. She described the Iran conflict as a war of choice and argued that every additional dollar spent overseas represented money that could have addressed challenges facing American families. Before questioning military decisions, Baldwin paused to honor the 17 American service members who had lost their lives in the conflict, including 3 killed only days earlier. She emphasized that these soldiers had paid the ultimate price and said Congress had a responsibility to examine whether they had been adequately protected. Her toughest questions centered on the deadly March 1st drone attack on the U.S. facility at Camp Waring in Kuwait. Citing media reports and conversations with Wisconsin soldiers, Baldwin argued that the base lacked sufficient counter-drone defenses and that previous requests for additional protection had reportedly been denied because of limited resources. She asked Hegseth what he would say to the families who believed their loved ones had been deployed without the defenses they needed. Hegseth expressed condolences to the families and said he had personally spoken with some of them. He defended the military's preparations, arguing that commanders had taken extraordinary steps before the conflict by relocating nearly 90% of U.S. personnel away from high-risk locations whenever possible. According to Hegseth, protecting American troops remained the department's highest priority throughout the campaign. Baldwin, however, pointed to reporting that suggested otherwise. She referenced accounts claiming that requests for counter-drone systems had gone unmet and pressed the secretary on whether the Pentagon would publicly release the findings of the investigation into the Kuwait attack. Rather than giving a direct commitment, Hegseth said he would consult with military leadership to determine how the investigation should be handled, while maintaining that he was unaware of any defense requests being denied. The discussion then turned to the treatment of wounded service members. Baldwin said injured soldiers she met at Walter Reed Military Hospital described delays in receiving adequate medical care after the attack, and raised concerns that some were not promptly screened for traumatic brain injuries. She questioned how such problems could occur after more than 2 decades of U.S. military operations in the Middle East. Hegseth responded that every effort had been made to provide appropriate medical treatment across the military's medical system. While he did not fully accept Baldwin's characterization of the care provided, he maintained that commanders and medical personnel worked to deliver the best possible treatment under difficult wartime conditions.